Hi, this is Dana, and welcome on my channel where I speak about spiritual warfare. In this video, God asked me to talk about a principle of spiritual war fighting, which is extremely important to be understood properly. In my spiritual fighting, I have gone through circumstances which were very odd to me. It was not clear to me what was the purpose of doing that thing. This goes back to a little bit to the previous videos where I showed how God works with you in spiritual fighting, right? Whereas God tells you what to do, but God doesn't explain to you why. What is the strategy? What is the goal? Why you do that? Um, and as I said, now the principle would be the answer that usually I would get from God when I would ask why I did this, why I needed to do this, why was this necessary, why, because it didn't really seem like the proper thing to do or the safe thing to do. You know, I gave in my prophetic writings, I gave a few examples in different writings where I explained that God would ask me, especially during my spiritual journey, to go in specific areas which were didn't really seem safe areas to me. And keep in mind that I was traveling during my spiritual journey with my dog, who's a golden retriever, so it's a big dog. It's not a small dog. So I was like, I'm not sure I should go to that area. Should I stay there? Why? Why should I go there? Because obviously it affects your flexibility, your mobility. You cannot stay in or enter in any building with a big dog. You cannot rent a room for the night in all places. It's very much restrictive when you travel with a big dog, right? And you have to adapt to the circumstances where certain ways of traveling are not open to you because they don't accept dogs, or certain places of renting for the night are not accepting dogs, and so on. So I was like not always comfortable in following divine guidance, because I was like, what am I gonna do there? What if they don't accept me to stay there overnight with the dog or stuff like this? And most of this is just an example that comes to my mind right now, but there are many examples throughout my spiritual fighting in which I encountered really not such safe situations. And I asked God, including my location of living. And this goes back to a question which I got for a previous video where somebody said that I never heard of that location. And God has always guided me that sometimes in spiritual fighting, God asks you to do certain things which don't necessarily seem safe to you from a 3D logic, right? But God always answered to me to this question, by saying, I take you through the muddy waters because the enemy cannot swim with you. So God will sometimes, when you're in danger, God sometimes will guide you to take certain steps, certain decisions, and go to certain places which don't necessarily seem safe from a 3D perspective. But um, God asks you to do this because for you in particular, that particular time, you're under such a tremendous attack that for you it's safer to be in a dark place. Either that God counts on that of hiding your light, dimming your light, so you won't be seen, so you won't be found. So he's hiding you essentially, like in a previous video which I uploaded on my channel. Literally, God is hiding you. So He's guiding you to places where you cannot be detected, you cannot be found practically. Because if you're divine being, staying in your light, you'll be very easily spotted, and you become a target very easily, right? So sometimes God will guide you to go to certain places or do certain things which will position you in such a way so he can hide you for a while when the type of attacks are too dangerous. This also is related to my location, my current location, which I have been praying and asking and hoping to change many times for a long, long time. I have asking this, and God guided me that I will change it soon. But the point is, the location where I'm at right now is not necessarily a safe location for me. I was sort of misguided to take this location. I sold my apartment in the city and I moved into this area at the time, in 2016. And God has guided me that this area essentially is the area where the people working for the Matrix were living. When I moved here, the house I bought was completely isolated, completely. There was no house around it, right? In 2 months, like this, in less than 2 months, the house, my house, was surrounded by new individuals who decided to move in the area. And God showed me, I directed you to move there because this is the place where they hide all the secrets, all the hidden bondages they created. They hide here. This is the location of the Matrix. And it was easier to hide you there because the type of darkness they would send to you would not be bearable to them, and the other way around. They would send to you witchcraft, which is very difficult to uphold in light. But if they are your neighbors, then the darkness they hold brings down the type of hypnosis or the type of witchcraft being sent on you. So it is truly very, very painful because it's a satanic presence, right? So it's very, very the dark and very painful darkness. But it was more important that I keep you in that kind of darkness, which I acknowledge it was damaging and hurting you, but it essentially was more obvious to you to see. It was easier for you to see it, to detect it, energetically speaking, than if you would have been in a location where they would have completely enfolded you in hypnosis and in witchcraft and spells and incantations. And that is a white type of darkness, white type of witchcraft done with Luciferian type of energy, which essentially numbs your ability to detect energy. So that for me would have been more dangerous place to put you in. So I chose to put you in a place which was obviously um, painful to you because it was a dark, really dark energy. But it was important to me because you were covered this way, and hence you had a limited number of enemies attacking you, so others couldn't see you to attack you. But at the same time, most important for me, it was that you see the darkness, you feel the darkness. Of course it was painful for you, but being painful made it obvious to you, so you could fight it. Because the other type of darkness that they would send to you, which was based on Illuminati, on hypnosis, on Luciferian, and on this kind of darkness, but sort of like white darkness, right? That would have been much more difficult for you to fight, because for the simple reason that is more difficult for you to detect it. And here basically it starts the process where those doing spiritual fighting must start to learn and detect and discern between different type of darkness being sent to them through different type of attacks. Okay. Because it's for example, the darkness being sent to you by church is a white darkness. It's based on Luciferian worshipping, is based on hypnosis, is based on entirely different. This is why usually you have so many complaints and so many accusations of pedophilia among church, because they use pure um, energy taken from the children, which is impossible for you to detect, or it is possible to detect it, I would say now, after all this experience, but it's much more difficult to detect, right? As opposed to the satanic type of darkness, which is pure dark energy, right? And it's very painful. It's very painful, but the advantage of being in that kind of darkness is that you detect it, you feel it, you sense it, you realize you're being attacked, so you can fight back. It's much more dangerous to be in a different type of attack which you cannot detect, so you cannot fight against it, right? So it enfolds you, and you don't know where it's coming from, and you don't know who to fight, and so on. And so many times when I would be very frustrated in my spiritual fighting with the type of situations that I was confronted with, God will tell me, that I am taking to you through the troubled waters because the enemy cannot swim. So I'm placing you in places and situations where those who are after you cannot come or cannot win. So you will still have the ability to fight at the back. This is what matters most in a spiritual warfare, to be able to detect what is being done to you, and to be able to answer back, to respond to that, to protect yourself, to self-defense essentially. This is what it's all about, right? And so I guess I'm not quite sure, because God gave me only this pointer. He said talk about this, and he gave me exactly these words which he usually tells me when I am very frustrated, namely that I'm taking you through troubled waters because the enemy cannot swim. This is why, you know. Um, so this is the only guidance that he gave me for this video. He said talk about this. So I would imagine that there are some people out there who are going through very harsh situations. God says in the second to me, harsh situations, and he wanted me to put this message out there so they will understand the logic of it, the divine logic, which essentially means that it's much more concerned with making sure that you can detect the type of attack being done at you. And it's probably sometimes, for example, it's been shown to me that God was placing me in that circumstance because there are certain enemies, if you want to call them this way, who are attacking me, right? And because they were so fierce, um, I would essentially get rid of and or get away from other enemies who were trying to harm me at that particular time. And so God sometimes moves you to one place to another, essentially to help you escape certain enemies who are getting out of control, and they just want to kill you, right? And they will move you in a different neighborhood, different circumstance, or different whatever, um, not because it's safer, but because it's different. And the new and essentially a war will start between the two camps, and this way you can survive, because they start to fight among them. And so you can survive essentially, and you can overcome that particular moment of extreme intense attack, when some of them are literally out of control and they are literally out to kill you. No kidding. They're like, physically they want to eliminate you. you know uh, so there's numerous ways in which this works, and I have seen this. I cannot explain how many times I have seen God working with this logic and making different type of strategies, and switching things, moving things, and changing the situations in such a way so you will make it through, basically, right? Okay, so I hope by explaining all of this, I gave the pointers important to whoever God has in mind. And of course, after you reach this kind of situations, it is always more of a challenge to get out of them because God takes you to these dangerous situations in order to keep you safe. Because as dangerous as they might seem, they're much safer than the situation in which you were before, right? Um, but of course, at the end of the day, you must find a way to escape and to uh, evade these situations, which were for a short term a solution. And it becomes a challenge, of course. But nobody said that spiritual fighting it's easy, or it's pleasant, or it's funny. Um, might be funny for those who are fighting for the dark. Clearly, it's not funny for us who are staying in our light and we are fighting next to God. But of course, this is the path. We gotta walk it. We just must count on the fact that these are temporary situations. We must keep this in mind. These are temporary situations. And as I know God, if there would be another way to do it, He would choose the best way to do it. But most clearly, if God chooses to do it this way, it means this is the best way to solve that particular situation in that particular timing, up until God succeeds to find a solution for you to move out of that. Um, Okay, so I hope this clarifies the concept, the idea, the strategy, the pattern of fighting, and I hope it gives some sort of, I don't know, comfort to all of those who actually go through it. I go through it myself as we speak, so I can totally relate to whatever you guys are feeling. I hope this helps you to understand and to cope with the situation for whatever time is necessary so you can get out of it. Okay. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel to make sure that everyone who needs this information will find it. And I thank with gratitude to all those who have donated to support my work. If others are interested to donate as well, you will find the information to my PayPal account in the description box below. Thank you.